She opened her eyes to a world that looked exactly like her own. Same bed, same house, same morning sunlight, but within minutes she realized nothing matched. Her sheets were the wrong pattern. Her clothes weren't the ones she bought. Her office swore she never worked in the job she remembered holding for months. Her closest friends treated her like a stranger. And the man she loved, the man she swore she had been with for years, simply did not exist here. Instead, another man appeared, claiming he was her boyfriend, showing photos she had no memory of taking, memories she never lived, timelines she never experienced. If she was hallucinating, the world should have cracked under questioning, but it didn't. Every piece of evidence said this life was real, not the one she remembered. Her world hadn't changed. She had. And the terrifying part is, she's still looking for the version of her life she lost. She drove to work to ground herself in routine, hoping momentum could snap her back into certainty. But work made the ground collapse instead. Her keycard failed at the entrance. A minor glitch, she thought. Annoying, but normal. She walked to HR and explained. The woman behind the desk looked at her like she was a stranger, pretending to be someone she wasn't. They checked the system. Her name existed, yes, but not in the department she remembered. Not with the promotion she could recall clearly down to the email wording. They told her she never held that position. She insisted they check again. She remembered her office layout, her projects, her coworkers, her deadlines. HR remained calm, almost pitying. The system said she was in a lower role, one she hadn't held in nearly a year in her memory. They showed her her own file, but it was a file from another version of her life. A life where her promotion never happened. She laughed nervously at first, thinking it was an internal error. But when she went to look for her colleagues, the ones she saw daily, ate lunch with, collaborated with, they treated her like someone they recognized but didn't know. Her closest work friend, or the woman she believed was her closest work friend, looked at her with polite distance instead of familiarity. The conversation that followed felt like talking to someone who had never lived the history you shared. The tone, the body language, the eyes, nothing matched. Home didn't comfort her. It disintegrated her further. She needed one person to anchor her reality. Her boyfriend, the man she remembered loving for years. She dialed his number. Disconnected. She looked through her messages, expecting old texts, photos, memories. Nothing, not one trace. It was like he had been surgically removed from the digital world, as though the universe edited him out and smoothed the space where he once existed, like erased pencil lines. She drove to his apartment, desperate more than hopeful. A woman answered. She had lived there for years. She had never heard of the man Lorena described. Neighbors didn't know him. No records, no traces. It felt like mourning someone whose body was still warm in her memory. She returned home and stared at photos she was sure existed, vacations, dinners, birthdays, but none were anywhere. Her phone showed a life without him. Her computer showed the same. It was like reality had overwritten itself, and she was the only outdated file left behind. Then came the man she didn't recognize. He approached her with warmth and familiarity, calling her by name with the tone of someone who had said it thousands of times before. He said he was her boyfriend. He showed her pictures she was in, smiling beside him, arms intertwined, moments captured on beaches, streets, parties. Her face was there. Her body was there. But her mind held no memory of ever living those moments. He showed her messages, conversations she never typed, but were written in her style, with her mannerisms, her expressions. It was her voice, but not her life. The world treated him as real. The phone recognized his number. Friends acknowledged him. And she stood alone, knowing the timeline she remembered contained a different man entirely. She loved someone who no longer existed in this version of reality, or worse, never existed here at all. Doctors evaluated her. Neurologists examined her brain. Psychologists ran tests looking for trauma, delusion, dissociation. But she passed everything. No injury, no disorder, no hallucination. She was mentally sound, grounded, clear. Her memories were consistent, structured, logical. It wasn't her mind failing. It was reality refusing to match. She tried to map her memories onto this world, like tracing paper, lining up landmarks, dates, events. But every point she touched shifted wrong. Street names seemed right, but their histories didn't match. Her mother insisted she never dated the man Lorena remembered so deeply. Her siblings shrugged off her fear with confusion, not concern. The people she loved didn't share her past. They shared a different one with a different version of her, or someone who looked like her. Days became weeks. Weeks blurred into years. She tried therapies, regression, hypnosis, journaling, timelines, digging through archives old enough to hold cracks. She tried sleeping less, sleeping more. She considered that maybe she died in her sleep that night and woke in a parallel version of her life, almost identical, but misaligned, like a duplicated image printed half an inch off. She wondered if reality was layered like pages in a book, and she slipped onto the wrong page between two dreams. Others suggested Mandela effect, collective memory, anomalies, parallel history, contamination. But this wasn't collective, it was isolated. If universes overlapped, they overlapped only for her. Imagine walking through a house built to your measurements where every inch feels slightly off. Like someone reconstructed it from memory but got the details wrong. You would question the builder first until you realize there is no builder. She began to grieve a life she remembered perfectly but could no longer prove existed. Grief for someone who isn't dead, just unreachable. Grief for a world no one else remembers. Grief for a version of herself that might still be living somewhere she cannot return to. She started writing everything she could remember about her original world: names, dates, smells, colors, arguments, touch. She collected details like crumbs, hoping they might lead her home. But memories don't rebuild universes. They only remind you what you lost. Still, she wondered if she replaced the version of herself that belonged to this universe. Where did that version go? Did they swap places like two parallel keys slipping into each other's lock? Is another Lorena waking up somewhere else, staring at sheets she doesn't recognize, searching for a life she can't prove existed? Maybe two worlds overlapped only long enough for her consciousness to cross. Maybe the barrier thinned like fog for one moment and sealed again, locking her out. Or maybe the two timelines rubbed together like tectonic plates and she slipped through the fault line. If she invented the entire previous life, delusion should crack under pressure. Instead, the cracks formed in reality around her. Her memories feel real because they are structured like lived experience, not fantasy. Memory holds sensory layers, emotional fiber, context, continuity. Hers do. Every moment she remembers with her original boyfriend carries scent, temperature, sound. Memory that detailed is not fabricated casually. Psychosis creates distortion, not clarity. Yet, clarity is all she holds. Reality is what looks bent. She lives quiet now, anchored nowhere fully. She tries not to think about how easy it is to slip between worlds. She wonders whether it was choice or accident or a cosmic glitch. Sometimes she walks streets, hoping to feel pulled toward something familiar. Sometimes she stares at strangers, wondering if one will recognize her from the universe she lost. Sometimes she dreams of the man she loved, not the man this world insists she belongs to, but the one her heart insists was real. In the dream, she calls his name and he turns. In the dream, he knows her. In the dream, he remembers, too. When she wakes, the sheets are still wrong. She may never know which version of her life was original, which one was replacement. She may never prove which universe holds her truth, or if she asks the ghost here or there. But the question her story leaves behind is the one that keeps people awake at night far longer than any paranormal tale. If you woke tomorrow and everything in your life was almost right, just a fraction off, would you trust your history or the world in front of you? Would you accept the differences as memory slips, or would you notice the seams? Reality feels solid until the moment it doesn't. And once you see the crack, you can't unsee it. If universes run parallel like stacked reflections, and one wrong step can move you from one to the next, how would you know you crossed? What if you already have, and the life you remember, ice and tea, the one you reliving now? What detail would reveal the shift? A missing photograph, a familiar face, forgetting your name, a favorite object replaced with something almost identical. Would you dismiss it, or would you feel that quiet hum beneath the surface? The hum Lorena woke to, the hum that said, "This world is not yours." Or maybe it is, and the one you remember is the intruder. And if you knew there was another version of your life still unfolding somewhere else without you, the partner you loved still loving you there, the promotion you earned still yours, the timelines aligned, the way you remember, would you try to go back? Or would you learn to live in the one you woke into, even if it never feels like home? You can't go back to a world unless you know where the door is. She never found it. Maybe she never will. Maybe the universe doesn't allow returns once the shift is made. Maybe the cost of crossing is permanence. She still searches quietly, hoping for a moment that feels like a tear in the fabric, a place where the air vibrates differently, a word spoken twice, a shadow that arrives a fraction late, a dream too vivid, a mistake in the pattern. She wonders if one day she will wake again in a life she recognizes, or wake in yet another new one, further from the original memories, stacked like nesting dolls of realities, layered deeper and deeper until she can. Remember which one she started in. Perhaps she will forget this world too and move to another. Or perhaps this is the end of her journey, and the doorway only opens once. And now you sit here listening, not because you think she's crazy, but because a small part of you fears she might be right. Because deep down, everyone carries one strange moment they can't explain. A déjà vu, too sharp. A childhood memory no one else shares. A decision you remember making, even though your life reflects the opposite outcome. What if those moments aren't glitches in memory, but glimpses of parallel tracks running beside your own? What if the impossible isn't impossible, just misplaced? Before you sleep tonight, you'll think about this. When you wake tomorrow, the room will look the same, but maybe one object will be different. The sheets, the mug, the mirror, the face beside you. Something will shift, and you'll hesitate, just long enough to wonder if this is still your world, or if you crossed into a neighboring one without noticing. Reality doesn't announce when the page turns. You simply open your eyes into a new sentence. And if it ever happens, if you wake into a life almost like your own, but not quite, remember one thing. The world may look the same, but the details will tell you the truth. Listen to the hum. Notice the wrongness. Pay attention to the sheets. 'Cause the question isn't whether Lorena Garcia slipped into another universe. The question is whether you will know if you ever do.